Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Linda Brubaker, and this is Career Search Lunch and Learn. We're a job search or career search resource group. We're here to support you in any way that we possibly can. We know that you don't necessarily want to be here. Your goal is to be able to pick up the tips and the tricks and the networking connections to move from this group into your next forever job. And we're here to support you doing that. Now, you all know that sometimes September isn't a great month. Everybody's coming off vacation. But actually, it's a great time to get involved and get started because a lot of other people are still holding back. So you have that edge. We're going to do a lot of that. I want to tell you a little bit about me before I get going, and then Sue, and then we'll get going with what our situation is all about. Remember to put your information in the chat. For those of us who still have free accounts, we only have 5 connection messages, which means that if you see somebody's URL here in the chat, please accept their connection request. You can see it, even if there isn't a message. It's a way of making those connections work and that networking work without using some of those connection messages. It really helps. Second thing is to put your information in the chat. We want to be able to support you with what it is you're looking for. And third, as we're moving forward, this is a question and answer session. So remember, because we have a number of people on the call already, raise your digital hand if you have something to say. We want to be able to find you. You can also, in the chat, in all caps, write the word question so that we can remember to go back and find you at a later date, okay, if we don't do it. And if we don't get to all the questions today, we will answer them either in the private group or in a post or in another session. But we really want to make sure that this is working for you. Okay, now about me, okay? And then I'm going to let Sue introduce herself because she's here to support all of us and provide her resources and information and the information that she has to share as well. So, Linda Brubaker, I am a career transitions coach, and I've been doing this now for the past 8 years. And the information that you get from me is based not only on the work that I'm doing with you all, it's based on my research. It's based on my network of other people in career management, people who are in talent acquisition, both inside and outside of companies, with hiring managers, as well as the research that I do to find out what's the latest and greatest, what's really happening in the world. We want to make sure that the information that we're giving you is built on reality. In addition, what I'm doing is I'm giving you information based on my over 20 years of HR experience. Because I've been an HR business partner, I've been an internal as well as an external recruiter and a hiring manager. So all of the information that we're giving you today is based on everything that we've learned, not only from all of our resources, from our own experiences, but what we pick up from you and from other job seekers as well. Okay, now I do this as my labor of love. This is my give back, but I support it by doing some individual coaching. And I'm going to put that information in the chat. I know I'm working with several of you now. Anybody would like to work with me, I am happy to do that. And that's my only pitch for today. Okay, I told you that this is not a sales group, but I want to now give Sue an opportunity to introduce herself.
Thanks, Linda. Well, you all are probably steeped in this, but my husband sent me something this morning that said September is National Resume Month. So yay, we started off last week getting ready for it. And I know you'll be doing more things as well, Linda, during the weeks I'm going to be traveling. So you all are in the midst of resumes. You know what you need to be doing. I help globally. I have a global consultancy. I've worked with a lot of people in different countries, work on the same challenges you're on, trying to get a job, trying to figure out what my portfolio career or career portfolio or both look like. And I support you and Linda in these meetings. I keep an eye on the chat, which has been really engaging the last couple of months, where people are not just saying great job, which is great when we have our successes, but also are reflecting back the learning they're hearing from people. And when you write that, that helps you remember it, but your peers see you as a resource that contributes. I also want to acknowledge I can't remember the specific people, and I don't want to just call out two people I remember, but several of you posted things in the last week that were really helpful. So thank you for what you're doing there. I think a couple were in the private group and a couple were LinkedIn posts. So again, you're visible to me, so I wanted to let you know how much that brings all of your networking, those what I call the subliminal messages of networking, like Linda says, turn on your camera, post on LinkedIn, post in the private group. It gets you seen for your expertise as well. And it would be amiss of me if I didn't bring out my pom-poms, and I see we've got a hand raised, maybe for successes and wins, but I will celebrate everything just like Linda does, Ken does, all of us who are here helping you and each other, celebrating just showing up here. Being here is one of the hugest steps you can take to make sure you're informed, and not just informed, putting it into practice. I've worked with a couple of you, and I know that it's hard to keep track of things. So remember when Linda says, we bring you what we can, we are trying to be your curated guides, curationing guides, whatever. We're trying to be the people who curate what we think is the best of the best from the fact that we work with all of you. Ken brings us a lot of exposure from things he's learning and seeing with people coming off major rifts and layoffs as well. So you're getting a lot of perspectives. You need to take them in, make them your own, but do try to follow the best practices. One of the reasons I come here is I love only having to say once, remember that the left-hand margin's your best friend. That's where you want to read with some really strong verbs, and if you're listening to Sue, outcomes. All right, I'll stop there, and I think Ken's here if you want to pass it to Ken.
He is. I just saw him come in, so please, Ken, join us.
Yes, yes. Sorry for joining a little bit late. Been doing work at Lehigh Harrison like crazy today. And sadly, we have a lot of people coming in off the holidays, so it's been a little challenging for us. My name is Kenneth Lang. I'm a brand specialist at Lehigh Harrison. What I do is I work with people that are in transition. A lot of them haven't done a resume in a while. They're not really sure exactly where to start. And one of the things that we're doing at Lehigh Harrison now is we're coming up with new guidelines, combination of things with the spamming and the bots, and even more than that, just redoing resumes, because apparently the biggest challenge is, and I'm sure Lindy, you'll chat about this later on, is all the fake jobs out there, the fake stuff out there. And so we're coming up with the best practices as to how you can determine what they are. So I'm here to support you and Sue and Linda, and I'll be traveling after today to Cincinnati for the weekend. Another ballpark off the list.
Good for you.
Hoping to
Okay.
meet Jeff Youngwell while I'm there.
Nice. Okay. Sounds
Yep.
great. All right.
So let me put my.
Okay. Ansel, you've got your hand raised. Is there something we can help you with?
Just want to share some good news. I said last week I had a tasting scheduled for a chef position that I applied to.
Yes.
It was on Monday. It went really well. And the hiring manager told me that I was a top candidate now and to look
Cool.
out for an offer by the end of next week, hopefully. So,
Congratulations.
thank you. We'll see how it goes. Thank you.
You have to share with us when you do. Not only that, you have to be able to share your recipe.
Okay. All right. We'll do.
You mind putting in the chat one or two of the things you made for your tasting menu so we
Yes.
can all salivate for it's noontime, our time in the East Coast.
Sure. I sure will.
Sounds wonderful. Okay. We are into the share your wins section. For those of you who are new, we like to be able to share wins. It's our way of telling people what's going on. A win is anything from you made a new contact to you had an interview, whether it went well or not, okay, to whatever it was, something that you want to celebrate because we want to be able to celebrate with you, and we want to be able to share your successes and learn from them too. And Pam, I see you have your hand up.
I did. So this is because I went and worked out first thing this morning.
Good for you. That's a win in my book.
I lifted heavy things and threw heavy medicine balls and all that stuff. So I'm freshly showered. I had an interview after the meeting last week and it went really well. So I am hoping that I hear from them by Friday. I'm hoping. It's kind of weird when you interview just before a holiday. Um, but the thing that there were two things that happened that were really good in the interview. One, he asked me straight up at the front, he said, looking at your resume, and I feel like you might be a little overqualified. And I said, I'm not only overqualified, I am perfectly qualified. I said, I have had a nice storied career, and it's my job now not to climb a ladder. I've already been at the top. I don't want to be at the top anymore. It's my job now to pass what I've learned on to a team, to make them better, to make the team better, to help them grow individually and as a group to meet the business goals. So, and then at the end of towards the end of the interview, we started talking about the potential travel, and there really isn't much. And that led into children. And he said, oh, I've got two young ones. And he showed me pictures of his kids. To which I reacted appropriately, and they were super cute. But I ooh and ahhed and did all the things, and I did not. I fought the urge to say, I have grandchildren that age.
Yeah.
It was like right there, and I was capable of shutting up and not saying that. So that was a good interview. That was nice. That I'm really hoping if anybody has people at CDW, I would love some extra oomph.
That sounds great. You answered some of those questions so well. Okay.
I've
The how
been
I
working on it.
You did well. Okay.
Thank
The
you.
answering the question about you look like you're overqualified. Okay. The grandkids versus the kids versus the travel.
It was so funny. It was just, and when I told him that answer about the eight, let's call it the ages and stuff, he stopped and there was a pregnant pause, and he went, I love that answer. So I got that a few times, so I'm really hoping I go on to the next round.
Oh, that's fantastic. Congratulations. What's the job?
It's a senior manager for an engineering group in data. So at CDW, I mean, it's a new position. So I'm not replacing anybody. I get to come in and do my own thing. It would be over two teams, storage team and the data team, and these are my people. I know, I know these people.
Okay.
Clearly I can do this job. So
Yep.
we'll see.
Keep us posted.
Yep.
Okay, so one of the other things is for somebody, and I apologize, I don't remember who it was last week, who talked about whether or not they should walk away from an interview if the salary that they were talking about was a little low. One of the nice things about getting into the interviews and getting started is that once they see who you are and what you can do, the same way that Pam did, I'm not only qualified, I'm overqualified, but I can now build this job for you. They may be able to expand the nature of the job and therefore the salary to go along with what you can do once you get in those conversations. But you have to have the conversations, and you have to be able to show what you can do for them before those conversations can happen. Okay, I'm sorry, Stacy, I didn't mean to take your time, but go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. I got to start up, Pam. Wet hair, same thing. And I'm like, I don't want to go off on camera, what's soaking wet hair, but hey, thank you for that. And congratulations. I know it's going to go well for you. I know. And I have to tell everybody, I know I said this before, but Pam, I don't think you were even on when I said this, but Pam helped me before. She reached out to me and helped me and did some coaching with me one-on-one, and it helped me immensely. And I'm so appreciative of that. And I'm actually trying to go back through my head right now to use that knowledge and find that courage, because I have an interview on Friday and I'm happy, excited, and also like I'm trying to get rid of the bad part of it because it's so much lower pay than what I had before. So I'm trying to focus on the fact that anything with the salary is better than my zero salary that I have right now. So even if it is like unbelievably lower. It's okay. And I'm just going in with as much positivity as I can. And I will not mention my grandchild. I almost did on one of the calls, and she said, like, hey, are you free now? And I was like, oh, I'm watching my granddaughter, but like, I have to not say that. And this, we'll see. So I'm nervous because it's a panel interview, and interviews don't ever go well for me. I'm such a nervous wreck, but I'm going in positive, and I'm going to try to be as qualified as I can portray, I guess, is all I'm saying.
Exactly. Positive, upbeat. You know what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
You are the expert on you. You're the only expert on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And I know that that salary can be an issue, but you'd never know, you might be able to bring it up a little bit.
Yeah,
And when you get to that-
exactly. And it's for a contract, and it's government, and I haven't done government work before, so it also means getting that what do they need? The clearance. And so I would have that, which would help me land other positions that require the clearance. So that's a positive aspect as well. And
Mhm.
whatever the salary is, it's better than than what I'm making right now. So
And you can, once they decide
benefits.
that they love you, then it's time to do a little bit of salary negotiation and do your research.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. And we can absolutely talk about that too. Okay, Lisa, you're next. There you
Hi,
go.
everybody. Stacy, talk to them like you're talking to one of your friends, just one friend. Talk to each person just as you're doing to one friend. Just take it one person at a time, not as a whole group. That helped me. So
It
hopefully,
does.
I'm sure you'll do fine. You will do fine, definitely. I had an interview last Thursday and it went well. There was a salary issue. I thought it was more than it was, and we had a conversation, and basically the conversation went to it it's not always about the money for me. Sometimes it's about the position, all that stuff. So I had that conversation just with the HR person, and um we left it as it was a good positive experience because I told her that I was interested in the position, which is a brand new position for them and for me, and getting in on the ground floor is something I'm interested in. So I will know today or tomorrow whether I move forward. And I also have another interview, with a second interview in person with a panel on the 10th. So we'll see.
I
I'm
love
excited.
it.
Yeah.
You should be. I can see it in your
Very
face.
cool.
That's
Mhm.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. Sherilyn.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. This may sound like an oxymoron, but a win I had this week is I realized what was best for me was to walk away from a job interview process. It was a commission-only position. It was partner sales, outsourcing accounting services to Indian call centers. And I went on their homepage and I got along really, really well with the hiring manager. I mean, to the point he was sending me pictures of his dogs. Got along really, really well. I really liked the guy. But when I went on their webpage and I looked at their American employees, not one referenced the company that this was. And here they're on the company webpage. And the fact that he told me you would not be an employee, it was a 1099 position. Commission only. Again, nobody referenced the company on their LinkedIn profile. For me, the reason I feel it was a win is because I have a tendency to have a difficult time for setting boundaries and for saying, I don't feel like this is a good fit for me. So, of course, I had insomnia. And I thought about this for a couple of days, talked to a couple of friends about it, and I feel it's a win that I essentially put a boundary. Like, I want a W-2 role. I don't want kind of a shady company to work for as a hobby. If I want a hobby, I'll clean my house. That will be a hobby.
Go clean mine.
Yeah, I'll clean yours. I'll clean anyone's houses. But that's why I feel this was a win, because I
Boundary.
I set boundaries, and I realized I just don't feel that this is the right fit for me. Now, if you want me to introduce you to individuals through the Junior League, because they do a lot of work with nonprofits, I'll make introductions, in the Junior League for you. So I volunteered there for 13 years. I'll do that. But as an adult, it's amazing how difficult at times it is still to make boundaries.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I count that as a win because I think you're right. You have to decide what works for you. And if it doesn't work, you need to walk away.
Yeah. And again, he has adorable dogs.
Well, that could be, but that's not going to get you paid.
Exactly. Yes. But I just, from a personal growth perspective, I just wanted to share that I felt that was a win for me personally, to set boundaries.
Very good. Congratulations. Okay. Jason, and then let's get into our questions. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, two quick wins. The first is over the last few weeks. I've gone through, and this happens to me in phases, where I have a group of interviews across different companies, and I feel good or bad. It depends on all sorts of factors. But I kind of feel like I get into certain times of the year or month where I have a lot of interviews, either at one company or across companies, but there's no offer. So the last 2-3 weeks for me is kind of I'm in that phase of a lot of interviews, and I'm really grateful for it. But there's no offer, and some of which have been disqualified, kind of the typical process. So I'm trying to strategize and think through how to, not just professionally, but kind of strategically work my way through any additional conversations with, whether it be the hiring manager, or if I get past that round and there's other rounds. So I'm very grateful. That was a big win for me over the last few weeks. And I look forward to anything, in terms of it moving forward, the process across the board moving forward. The other win, literally right before this call, I was actually invited, I think it was in the last 2 weeks, through some random person on LinkedIn who I don't know, who found me, to attend, just like our call here, to attend a similar networking call, which was just within the last hour. And it went really well. It was actually really interesting. It was people, I'm in marketing, and it was a lot of people in the marketing space, a lot of entrepreneurs, founders, some of which supposedly have been on past calls from this group and have actually made deals, or at least reached out to each other. Some deals were actually kind of struck at the beginning of it, were struck through the networking group itself. So it's a win as of today that I was invited. I attended my first meeting. I thought it went really well. But also interesting because these people are literally all over the world. There's Brazil and just everywhere. So it was a very interesting meeting. And I would just say, as much as we are all here to network with each other and help each other, not Linda to distract from this, because you have an amazing group. But I would just say for everybody, keep reaching out, keep trying to find networking groups. There's a lot of them out there. In my specific case, it just happened to be one where somebody found me and invited me in. So it was a big win.
Perfect. That is a win. Thank you. And you're right. There are lots of networking groups out there, lots of support groups out there, lots of people who are here to try and support you. Jason, let's see. Can you lower your hand? There you go. Okay. All right. So we're all here to support you. And I love all these wins today. I think it's fantastic. Okay. What I want to do now is let's go to the Q&A section, which is what today is all about. So if anybody has a question, you're right, Sue, this is National Resume Month. So you're going to be hearing a lot about resumes. A lot of my posts are going to be about resumes. My guess is we're going to be talking about them again today. We did it last week, and we're going to be doing it again on the 24th, I think, right? The last Wednesday of the month is also another resume section. We're actually going to not just answer your questions, but we're actually going to take the time to take a look at some of your resumes as you're raising the question to see whether we can give you some advice and support. Okay. All right. So that said, what questions do you all have? The floor is yours. If you've got a question, please raise your hand.
Hey,
Jeffrey.
thank you, Linda. Question with, let's say, fine-tuning your resume with each role. Let's say you keep the basics, meaning everything below as, let's say, standard, but then you make changes on the skills and the professional summary, whatever you're looking for, et cetera, on the top, or do you go down every level?
All right, I'm going to add Sue and Ken to this if they're willing to chime in before I do too.
Go ahead, Sue.
Oh, thanks. So Jeffrey, I think I get what you're saying about the sections, but remember, resumes aren't that long. So your whole goal is to focus on what does this position need? And this is where AI does help us, where you can say, here's the job posting. Take your most recent 2 jobs or 3 jobs, just depending on duration, say 5 years of jobs, and try to make sure that you've got something that's strong for either industry jargon that you may be using, they may be using differently. You want to do that, keywords and all of that. But you also want to make sure your accomplishments speak to what they're hiring for, because program manager is a title everywhere. And the success that they sort of describe or imply in the job postings are all over the map. So that's where it can help you also relate that. And I'll stop there and pass it to Ken. Thanks.
I would be a little bit wary of AI if you haven't used it before, because I see, and I'm not a resume expert, I can tell an AI-driven resume from a mile away because it's a cut and paste of what you're asking it to do. You really have to personalize and put it in your tone and your voice. That's the mistake I see a lot of people making. It's a great tool. I use it all the time at Lee Harrison when I don't know what the job title is, when I don't know anything about it. But I'm never gonna use that as the mechanism to put that on a resume I review. It's got to be you. What's in it for me as a future employer? What from your past experience will lend itself? And sometimes that's not something you can find on AI. Sometimes you may find that out just by, following the company. Again, these are different viewpoints, and it's just based on our experiences. I think AI is a great tool. I think all of them are great tools, but they're tools.
I think that's exactly the point. It is a tool. It is not something that you should use to write your resume. It is not something you should use necessarily to say, here are the main points that you should include, because that's not necessarily you. And I agree with Ken. I can tell an AI written resume or cover letter a mile away. I can tell a post that's been written by AI or a comment the same way. In fact, I've started including on the bottom of many of my posts that this was written by me, not an AI. Okay, just because I think it's important that we start making that distinction. You want to be authentically you. So in terms of the resume, Jeffrey, yes, the most important part is that top piece, the summary, the skills, the accomplishments that relate to the new job. But by the same token, below the fold, if you will, in that experience section, You want to make sure that what you're writing there is still accomplishment based, it's not tasks. And because there are so many things we all do in every job, you may want to have a master and then cut and paste from that master some of those bullet points for that job in that experience section. If you're telling me everything you can do and it doesn't match what I need, you're not telling me what I want.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
You're
Sure.
welcome. Okay, let's bring Jeffrey on.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I have a couple of quick questions. The first one is that, so I work on a lot of projects or programs or with a lot of companies, either as a W-2 employee or as a consultant. And for a good majority of them, they make me sign some sort of NDA form.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do I represent those efforts on my resume and also on my LinkedIn profile without betraying their trust and keeping their confidence?
Ken, this is your bailiwick.
What?
I said, this is your expertise.
Well, I think you can speak to projects in a very general way without mentioning the company. You can mention that the industry the company's in. You can mention the scope of the project. You can mention things from a user perspective, because I was a consultant for many years, and I would have to be very wary of what I said and didn't say. And one of the issues I would have a lot of times is people want to have samples of my work. People want to see proof why, and my answer was, it used to be, I can't do it by NDA, and now then my answer became, well, how would you feel if I showed my work to someone else that I did for you? Kind of put it back on them. It's like, great, you want, how would you feel? And that kind of gets them off. It's like, I never thought about that. Now you have to think about how you're going to pose that, of course. I mean, I'm just saying this in a conversation here, but you can just say, I can't do this. I can give you a sense of what I do. But also just be respectful of the fact that you have, former employers. And just sometimes it's just being very general. If that helps, I hope that helps.
It does.
Good.
Okay. Sue, anything to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that don't forget that a lot of the work you do may be varied or look varied or feel varied to you, but there are threads of your career and your expertise that you weave together across these jobs. And one way that people handle consulting in LinkedIn, you have a company page, and under their consultancy, they'll describe like major task areas they've worked on. They might say 3 different industries where I've provided consulting services on quality control. And then another one would be all under the same job, which also allows you then to link a longer time period. So it doesn't look like 1 month here, 3 months there, 2 weeks there. So it's just a way to think about it, grouping it to the larger practice.
And another thing that you can do, that LinkedIn company page is useful in the sense if you're going to be putting that, building a logo, and you can just, your logo can be your initials, doesn't matter what it is, but you're not really selling yourself necessarily as that consultant. The reason for building that company page, if you have a lot of consulting programs, is to be able to use that logo on your resume or in your LinkedIn profile. And then you group all of those assignments under that. And what you say, you can call it freelancing, you can say it project work, okay? And that's your overall title. And then you can do it from 2020 to 2025 or to current, even though each individual project may have lasted 3 to 6 months.
And depending on the industry, you can do a Linktree or a GitHub or something like that, which are very easy to put together. Again, it's showing just introduce yourself that way. Again, there's no one right or wrong. It's about what you feel comfortable doing and what you're allowed to do.
Right. But that's another way of adding some of that information.
Yep.
Great advice. Good
Thank you so
question.
much.
Uh-huh. Hello, Dawn.
Hi, thank you
Hi.
for having me on. I have 2 quick questions. The first one is, well, just a little background. I was laid off last year, and I've had a couple of part-time jobs, but not a full-time job because I had a health issue, but everything's fine now. So thank you. My question is that when I got laid off, I was offered a part-time position right away by a restaurant that I frequent that's local in the area. And it was the perfect title, Event Sales Coordinator. And the targets were like holiday parties, corporate events. It was perfect, right? But it was only part-time, and that was fine. That's all I wanted at the time. And the thing is, it was full-time when they were thinking it was going to be like February. I got it right away. I mean, I started like beginning of December. Um, and what the thing is that they are working on a build out that they're going to host events, large events there, up to 300 people, right? Well, that's been in the works since 2022. And finally, like there's walls up that came up like in April, and it's like to September already. It's a logistical nightmare. It's I don't know what's happening with them, but they actually let me go in March because of their own financial things. You know, they thought I could help with the events, but it was the offer letter they gave me was dependent on the progress of the build out.
Mhm.
So I only worked there a few months and I haven't put it on my resume, even though everything on it is great. I enjoyed it. You know, what I want to do, I could really speak to that, but I don't know how that would look. You know, I've been somewhere for 9.5 years in conferences and events. You know, they let me go, and then I worked for this other place only for 3 months, from December to March. Even though the title's perfect, that you know, I could bullet point everything. I don't know if I should put that on my resume or not. That's my first question.
Okay, so before we get to the answer to the question, they didn't let you go. The job lost you. You
Yes.
didn't, right? There
Yes.
was nothing that you did
Exactly.
wrong. You have to
Yeah,
change
it was
that
a lot of
mindset,
fun. I really
right?
Yeah.
enjoyed it, and I
But
learned
you
a
have to
lot.
change your mindset. It's not that you lost the job. It's not that they let you go. You were laid off. It's an
Okay.
entirely different point of view, and it changes your point of reference. And you need to start
Okay.
thinking about it from that perspective. I'm sorry. Go
That's
ahead.
okay, but do I say that? Do I say that? Oh, they lost me, you know?
You
Well, not
say it
necessarily,
differently.
but your point of view. Yes, you were laid
Yes.
off, and that's all you have to say.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I think it's really important that you get it written down now, because listen to what you're saying and you need us to reflect back to you, because you're underselling your brilliance. They hired you to strategize and define a vision for a build out they were doing,
Yeah.
which they then had to terminate your contract for because the building progress, the building wasn't progressing. You can use all those words, and
Yeah.
that doesn't say you even laid off. But it then allows you to detail the things you did do for them and what
Yeah.
you organized and planned. And that's how you get it on your resume as contributing, even though it didn't come to fruition. We forget to take credit for the early steps.
You know, you can say it was a project and the project ended.
Right.
You know, it's as simple as that. The project
Yeah,
ended, period. I
that's
mean, as a
Okay.
consultant, I was
Hired
on many
me.
projects that were 6 months and they cut it to 4 months. It wasn't my fault. It was that they ran
Yeah.
out of budget. And that's
Yeah.
okay. Not okay that it happened, but you just you accept that in that space. The project ended.
Right.
These are
Okay.
my accomplishments. You know, it's
Right.
like, okay, ready for my next thing.
And if they
Okay. The
ask why the
project
project
ended.
ended, they ran out of money. They
Yeah,
decided not to
Yeah.
finish the build out.
absolutely.
It has
Absolutely.
nothing to do with you. It has to do with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is the truth. I mean, I still go there. I love that place. They know, like,
You
if it
should
ever
see if
worked
they can.
out, they could hire me, and they
Right.
hired me fully intending on going to full time. It just didn't work out. So that's why I don't have it on my resume, even though it's like, wow, that's like the perfect job that I would want to do.
You put it on, ask
Absolutely.
them for a
And
recommendation on LinkedIn. See if they'll
yep.
recommend you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, they're small. I mean, I could try, but
Even write it for them. If they're on LinkedIn, write it for them.
yeah,
Yeah,
they're not
write
even
it
on
for them.
LinkedIn. They don't even get like their Facebook events on half the time.
Okay, well,
I mean,
Yeah.
I wanted to
In any
help them
event,
with that, but
whether they do or not, the idea is absolutely add both to your resume and to
Yeah.
your LinkedIn
you know,
profile.
you
Yeah.
were a project manager for want of a better word.
yeah.
It sounds
Right,
like
for
Yeah.
events management. Yeah,
events
that's a
Yeah,
manager.
good
it
Yeah.
was a
point,
lot of
Ken.
fun, and I did learn a lot. So the second question is kind of related to that, is another thing I don't have on my resume is that I've been a Sunday school teacher since 2019. And but also what I've done with that is they know that at that time I was still working conferences and events. I've chaired at least 3 fundraisers for the church. Like a huge one we did over COVID. I
Right.
did a virtual auction. I did that for over a year. I mean, totally took, the reins on that. So I did huge things for the church. And in fact, most recently this year, I chaired us getting into our local Aurora Pride Parade, which was our first time being there through chemotherapy. I did it. It started February, and then the Pride Parade was June, and I ended my chemotherapy May 29th, and the parade was on the 8th. And I did it. I walked and I almost like passed out at the end, but I did it. I held the banner. I have pictures of me holding the banner and everything. And that was something that also helped occupy myself during, my treatment and everything. Even though I was still looking for full-time work, actually. I attended job fairs and things like that, but that was like my, what do they say? Like my flagship project, this spring was doing that. And it was huge. And I could see myself chairing it next year because I learned a lot doing that. So like, again, do I put that on my resume? Okay. All right. So I'm
And
like
your
really
LinkedIn,
selling
and your
myself.
People
LinkedIn
love
profile.
fundraisers. Everybody wants to hire fundraisers who do
LinkedIn
it
profile, if you're
effectively.
still doing it now, it's a current job. I don't know if it
Yeah,
is.
Absolutely.
exactly.
I am. I teach Sunday school, but now we're gearing up for our. I teach the teens. I teach
Okay.
middle school and high school level, and we're gearing up for our fall retreat. So in Wisconsin. So
Yeah.
I'm working on a. That's right. Yeah. I decided I had this idea. We did a bake sale in spring, and I thought, well, how about a bake art sale? Because the kids love doing art, and my daughter in particular is into art. She went to an art camp this summer at NIU. And so I thought, oh, an art sale. So that was my idea. And now we're doing this fundraiser on the 21st at my church, and that was my idea.
Absolutely. I think it's a great
Absolutely.
idea. And it should be on your LinkedIn profile and it should be on your resume. You should
Okay.
use those skills at the top when something has to do with it. When you're
Yeah.
talking about fundraising, you're talking about the organizing, you're talking about the strategizing, you're talking about the execution of the project plan, right?
Publicity, the promotion, whatever is
Yep.
involved, social
You've,
media,
Yeah, I
whatever.
mean, I'm doing
absolutely.
all of that. Okay. Yeah, all
It
right.
all goes down there.
Great. Okay. All right.
Cool.
That's all I need to know. I'm gonna go for it. All
Good.
right. Thank you.
Sergio,
Hey Linda, hi everybody. So I have a short story and then my question, right? So the story, it's basically to a point of your own created resume versus AI generated, right? So I've been out of work for a month and a half, right? And I got a lot of traction when I use my old created resume. I don't know, about 3 weeks ago, I started to more or less have AI help me in that search, and the creation rather, right? To align the resume with the job descriptions and all of
Huh?
that. I'm not getting as much traction as I was before. Now, the reason why I did that was because, again, I've been in the industry for 24 years in supply chain management. And so I have a lot of experience. So my resume is really like 3 pages long, right?
Mhm.
And I wanted to make it more succinct because I've been a hiring manager myself, and I know, it's attention span and all of that stuff. So, question, do I really keep on pushing this whole condensed resume to the point or go back to where I got a lot of more traction with my own creative resume that's 3 pages long? Right? Again, it's because some mixed messages that you hear, right? Like be more direct, 2 pages, 3 pages, or some may say it doesn't matter. As long as obviously with 20 years of experience, it's only given that your resume is gonna be that long, right? So
now if
yeah.
I'm going to put on my hiring hat for just a moment, my HR hat, I'm not going to read the third page. Okay. The machine will. It's going to pull out those skills. But unless you're telling me right up front in that first quarter to third of a page why I should read further, that last page is a waste,
Mhm.
at least from my eyes. If you're down to 3 pages, okay, unless you've got a lot of publications, patents, things like that. That can go on that third page. But otherwise, you should be able to condense what you're doing into 2 pages.
And create an accomplishment section underneath it, highlighting some of those older experiences without
Exactly.
mentioning dates.
So what you can do at the end of your resume, right? Put your 10 to 15 years. And by the way, if you've got more than 5 bullet points under each job,
It's too many.
I've stopped. I'm done.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a good discussion.
And make sure, right. And make sure that those bullet points aren't tasks. I don't care about what you were supposed to do. They're accomplishments, right?
Right,
Results.
right. But okay, so Linda and Ken and Sue,
Yep.
the counter to that is what I was
Okay.
mentioning before, is that I did get a lot of traction with the long version of the resumes. I did.
Okay.
Like, and I had some first, second round interviews and
Okay.
things like that, and some things are
Good.
still going on. But
Okay.
you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, should you do it? Maybe. Should you not do it? Maybe. You know, it's like I think, you know, what I guess I hear a lot too is, you know, do what best works for you, right? What you think it's best, right? At the end of the day, right? So yeah, that's my
There
dilemma.
is no one right answer.
Yeah, that's
You,
right.
you can you can apply online to an ATS and you can have 7 or 8 pages there and it'll be in there and it'll be parsed out.
Right.
You send it to a recruiter, they may want something different, and there's different types of recruiters. I mean, none of us can give you a one size fits all answer based on specifics. Like if I was looking at your resume, I might make comments about it. I see some really great resumes that are 3, 4 pages, and there's a lot of accomplishments on them. And it's challenging to me to try to cut them down because I wouldn't even know what to cut down. I mean,
Right.
I'll make suggestions and things, but because the resume is it's your document, not mine.
Right.
And you have to, again, you may have multiple versions of it. I
And you
work with,
should.
I mean, there may be a senior manager as a one pager, and that's fine, fine for them. Again, they may have other acts. I mean, there's no one size fits all, I guess is what we're all saying.
And that's exactly right. The length of your resume, it depends. But AI generated, please
Yeah.
don't.
You may
Please
have
don't.
extra words on there and things you don't really think you need because you're too close to it. Again, I don't know. I haven't seen your resume.
Right. But you want to see what's working best for you. Now, if that 3-page resume works best, then maybe that's what works. But it's also possible that you can condense some of it and make it shorter. A lot of us have a lot of extra words, the fluff
Sure.
that really doesn't belong there. If you're thinking about your 3-page resume, maybe that's the one that you use as your model, and you pull and copy paste from some of the jobs depending upon what the job is that you're applying for. It doesn't necessarily have to be everything for everything.
Mm-hmm.
But while the machine will read it all, unless you have really intrigued me, I'm not going to read that 3rd page. I may not even read the 2nd. At least not before we're done.
That's a challenge for me because actually the first real big pharma company that I work for, which I like to boast about because it tells my story, is Pfizer, but that's really the one in the 3rd page.
Well, then maybe you need to shorten some of the ones on the first 2 pages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that it moves up higher in the list.
Or put
Yeah.
those Pfizer things as accomplishments.
Exactly. Okay. There are lots of ways of getting around it. And you can say up in the very top in the skills section, pharmaceutical experience. Then look and find it. In your accomplishments, and all your skills can be based on that. You can talk about accomplishments based on that pharmaceutical experience. You don't have to say how long ago it was. You just say, here's what it is.
I mean, I'm going to speak from a hiring manager perspective now. Different from the recruiter. A recruiter is very busy. They're going through things left and right. They don't have time to really go through the stuff. They're going to get there they're going to pass things on to me. I will read it probably a little more closely to look at the background because that's what I'm looking to do. It's up to me to figure that out. The recruiter is the gatekeeper, for want of a better word.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes the workaround might be to reach out to a hiring manager directly or ask someone else because you want to get to the hiring manager and recruiters have limited resources. It's not their fault. It's just the way it is, and especially with AI and online. But if I find the right person, I will take the time, and I did take the time to read 2 and 3 pages because I might find a nugget there.
Mm-hmm.
But that's me, and different hiring managers may think differently.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm only going to read that second and third page if I'm intrigued on the first one.
And the
I
first
may
one.
I may never get it otherwise,
Exactly.
which is part of the whole hiring issue. Not issue, but just the way it is.
Mhm. So you
Yeah.
have to do what's best for you, but either way, highlight that older experience in your accomplishments, highlight in your experience, and then decide the rest. But there are still ways of adding it without making it 4, 5, 3 pages.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Thank you guys.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
you're welcome.
I mean, it's not our intention to scare people off or get people really.
No,
I just want to just understand. We're just giving you some feedback. You can agree, you can disagree. It's just our thoughts. So I don't want anyone
exactly.
to feel
Yeah.
that, anything negative. It's not meant that way.
And there really are no
I just
rights or wrongs here.
And I just want to say, Sergio, to close this, you can always list previous jobs, the employer and the role, duration, and employer. Just list this at the bottom of the second page so it shows up. The role shows up, Pfizer shows up, whatever, without the words. It doesn't, you don't need to give equal weight to older jobs unless they're hiring for something that you did 10 years ago. And as Linda and Ken both said, you can mention those in your accomplishments, which are not, here's what I've accomplished in the last job, here's my life story and what I bring you, the value, the proven successes that I've had, those kinds of things. So just
Absolutely.
lists are okay.
And so what I do at the back for that area, Sue, and then we are going to get to this one, is I added a separate section. It's called additional related experience, so that it highlights. That way, let's say that if you've got the job at Pfizer and you've got a job at Abbott or whatever, you want to include those, you can do that. You've put the accomplishments up top where I can find them. You've got the skills up top where I can find them, but you've still listed where you worked and when and what your title was. And in that additional related experience section, if you don't want to list every job, you don't have to. If you don't want to put the dates in that section, you don't have to. You can say 5 years at Pfizer without saying that it was 1980 to 85. Sorry, I know that's not the date, but just
Sure.
to give you an example.
Sure. Thank you.
Uh-huh. You're on.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. So this is not really specific to the use of to what to include in the resume, but the use of it. And there was a comment last week about not having your resume on LinkedIn.
Right.
Can you add some clarity to that, please?
Please don't put your resume on LinkedIn. The idea is you need to customize your resume each and every time. Your
We're talking
LinkedIn,
the actual resume, because anyone can download
Right.
it. Anyone can take whatever information they want on it. There's a difference between your resume being the same as your LinkedIn profile, but to actually put it on there, that's just dangerous and
It
not
is.
a good idea.
Okay.
You don't know what's going to happen to it. It's a public document. It's a public profile.
Okay.
And we
All
have
right,
seen
great.
some of them
Thank you.
used in the wrong way.
Yeah. So does that help at all?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. And I do have something else, and this is based on what Sergio had asked when you speak of adding the additional jobs, because I'm a little bit sensitive to the ageism.
So am I.
So, yes. And so, I've got quite a bit of experience. And, we've got some, if you look at my resume, you would probably think, oh, she's been working for 100 years. So, I'm a little bit, I guess, hesitant when it comes to that, especially since I've been at one particular job for close to 19 years.
Okay. So you can do the same thing with that additional related experience and not put the the dates on that area. And again, you only have to list those if it's something that's important for the new job and that you haven't done elsewhere. Since you've got 19 years at that one company, you've got the longevity already to show.
Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Next, we still have more hands up. Matthew.
Hi. I had a quick question about, I guess, as far as what is kind of leading the job search. I'll have to admit it's been a slower market in July and August, and some of that I think was people were on vacation in July, and so the networking. Um, Other people on like my weekly job search work team are very driven by like open positions. Whereas in the past, like when I was in the trying to get into the Salesforce ecosystem, I found it better just essentially having the like networking conversations drive the conversations, because it would either go one of two ways. They would either kind of coach you, and give you like ways you could improve your job search, or they would want to work with you. And so they would move it into the referral stage. And with that, like yesterday, I was talking with someone that is a hiring manager that has like a position that is going to be posted in a week, and she's going to uh, send it to me. Or like in July, there was someone at Medline who was anticipating their, um, turnover on their team the next 3 months. Um, I guess I wanted to get your feedback. Should I be having like the open positions driving the conversation, or is it just trying more of the networking conversations that should be driving most of my like job search activity?
So I just need a clarification, Matthew. Are you saying should it be driving your networking conversations?
Well,
Talking only
so
about those
well,
positions or your job search in general?
job search in general, because like a lot of people's philosophy seems to be, well, is they find a position at a company and then they're asking for referrals to then try and get through the ATS. And then they're obsessing over like the AI component of getting through the ATS. I've just found it much better, like cold calling people on LinkedIn. Like you add a note when you're adding a connection, and you try and get people on the phone, and then you're trying to determine whether or not there's a job, because if they want to work with you, they bring it up. Should I be more focused on just trying to find open positions and getting referrals? I find like having more of like a sales mentality seems to be a little bit um, better, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Ken, what's your suggestion?
I mean, there are so many positions that are out there that aren't open and aren't even posted because a lot of companies just don't want to go through the exercise of trying to find people. I think a lot of times you want to build out the relationships. Like I know 4 or 5 local executive recruiters, they do not post jobs on LinkedIn. They just rely on people like myself to kind of feed them qualified candidates because they don't have the time and energy, and there's a trust factor. Now, that's just me speaking specifically. If you can find some people that are recruiters or people in your network that can kind of be on your eyes and ears, that's probably better because the competition for open jobs is abominable out there. And you just don't know. I mean,
Well, and the other issue that I'm just finding with having the open positions like on LinkedIn, like driving the conversation, is that like all of them, all the data positions right now, or something that's with technology, with easy apply now, like it just floods. You get 100 things. So I mean,
no easy apply.
And I don't do that, but it is like LinkedIn's changed since I was in the market 2 years ago.
Yep.
And I think some of it is just there's uncertainty with um, what's going on. So I think there's little movement in this type of environment. It just seems like you're best off kind of acting as a salesman where you're networking, and then
Yeah, I think, look, LinkedIn is now Career Builder Monster 2.0 from a job search perspective.
It sucks now.
It does because of what is out there. And so, and Linda, you can probably speak to that better than me, but I don't do anything on LinkedIn related to job search with my clients and things. It's all offline.
And are there other
Be a combination of both, because I think we are seeing people who are applying directly. If they've got that targeted approach, that seems to help. The last two people who got hired that we've been working with have found it directly from a direct application.
Okay.
No referral, no nothing.
What's the industry?
Healthcare like manufacturers. So like I was at Hollister.
Healthcare like pharma or healthcare like hospitals or
so healthcare like pharma.
Stryker.
So like the last
Stryker.
company I was at was Philips for remote cardiac patient monitoring.
J&J.
So the devices themselves, you're not selling devices, you're doing the data work?
Like sales operation. And so you're supporting, providing analytical support, and then also have like a Salesforce component.
But that could be transferable off other industries too, then it sounds like.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I guess just given the 4 years within the life sciences, I figured that my best bet was focusing on like kind of the healthcare, commercial analytics space.
So my recommendation is don't narrow the field.
Okay.
It's transferable skills. You've got a lot that you can do. Yes, you want to look at those healthcare analytics, but there are other industries where those skills could be useful as well. And in terms of whether or not you should be doing the job search on LinkedIn, doing it elsewhere, doing it networking, direct apply, my answer is yes. It's not an either or, it's how you spend your time.
Right.
So you
I
may
mean,
want to,
like if you have to build out your profile, that's one of the first things to do on LinkedIn is to make sure it's searchable by what you want to be. You know, one of the things I always recommend with the clients at Leac Harrison is do a search on the job title that you're looking for and see who shows up and why they show up.
Mhm.
You know, just
Look
as a
what skills they're listing. If they show up high in the list,
sometimes
maybe those are some
you'll
of
be
the things you should add
surprised
to
and
your profile.
you may not have something there you don't realize you have there.
Mhm. So that's absolutely the right thing. Networking never ever stop. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
But if your networking conversation is, hey, have you got a job opportunity? I want to do it. I'm not necessarily going to want to connect with you yet, talk with you. I
Yeah.
need to build that relationship in that networking conversation first. So build a relationship, then ask, or let them, it'll flow naturally. Gee, what are you doing? I want to hear about how you got here. What did you do to prepare yourself? What do you think about this role? Then they're going to turn it around on you and ask you questions, and it becomes a much better conversation and a much more productive conversation for you.
I definitely agree.
So pull back that sales hat a little bit. Okay. Jason, I see your hand up. Is anybody else who has not yet asked a question, got a question? Okay.
I just had a quick question. This may have been discussed in past calls. When you're interviewing, you being any one of us, and you've gone through interviews to a certain point, and you're now asked to either fill out a project or complete a project, or some sort of quote take home, whatever word you want to throw in, right? But you're not being compensated for it, right? You have a choice, yes or no. I'm going to do it or I'm not going to do it. For me, I've been asked multiple times. I'm in marketing, and I can see from a company's perspective the concept of asking a candidate to do this. If you're in marketing, if they want to see your work before making sort of decisions on whether or not you move forward or get an offer. And I initially, at the beginning of being asked to do these things, I gave in, and I wasn't being compensated, and I completed work and I sent it in. But then I started to realize, well, this wasn't turning into any offer, and I'm providing free work with no compensation. So I think I'm getting the answer, right? So I still, in recent times, here and there, get asked to fill out take-home projects, whatever they want to call it. But here's a project, here's your data. Go ahead and send it back in 24 to 48 hours. And then I'm not doing that anymore because I've learned my lesson. Has anybody had this, whether in marketing or anything else, in an interview process to no, offer or really providing free work? And then that's kind of question one. Question two, more on the HR side, if there's a viewpoint on, should candidates, when asked to do something like this, proceed uncompensated and provide prospectively, and it could be a current problem that you're trying to solve for the company, but you're not working for them. So should somebody do that in general interview.
And you just had a great post about that a couple of days ago.
I did. I think, back in the days when I was in IT, they would give me a technical interview to see if I actually knew what I was doing, and that's understandable. Um, I was later in my career asked to develop things for them, and I said to them pretty much like I said before, I'm not going to share things. I'm not going to give my knowledge away. It's hard to do, but one of my clients, one of the people there actually did a project and had a watermark on it so it couldn't be used.
Mhm.
Because I actually know a photographer, a famous photographer who had her pictures taken away all the time. So she has a watermark on all her shots now. Now, I think a lot depends on the role. Sometimes it's good practice for something you may need to do in the future, but I wouldn't go crazy about it because I think companies will get away with whatever they can.
Yeah, and you're right. They're using it as free labor. They're using your information, unfortunately, more often than we'd like to
It
see.
happened to me one time and it'll never happen again.
Yep. So here are a couple of ways that you can get around it. The watermark is a good one. Putting a copyright on each individual page is another.
Yep.
Third is to say, here's the process that I would use to do this. And once we get together and once I'm employed and I'm pulling the information from you, here's the kind of a result you can expect. So you're giving them the process without the work.
And companies will understand that. A good company will understand and respect that.
Yeah.
If
And
they
if
don't,
somebody
then
still
it's a red
pushes,
flag. Yeah.
right, somebody still pushes, yes, it is a red flag. And I've had one candidate come back and say, my hourly rate is $100 an hour, and I'm happy to be able to do that. Where do I send the invoice?
Absolutely.
You're
Like a
telling them
different
that your
trend.
knowledge is valuable.
It's almost like a negotiation in the
Yeah,
interview process.
it is. It is. I
Exactly.
mean, someone did a post a couple of years ago about people should be paid for interviewing, for their time and energy, for going for the gas and all that stuff. It shouldn't be free.
No,
And
but they
again,
should definitely be paid for these kinds of projects, especially.
and you should be paid if you have to go on site somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Okay. Last question. Sorry. Okay, Aaron. Because we do this again often, so
Oh,
don't want to waste any.
I just wanted to quickly just build off of what Jason just said. I actually had an interview where I got to the second round and they gave me this quote unquote take home test. And there were no guardrails. There was nothing about we'll compensate you. And I've had other situations where the agency would say, we're going to compensate you for your time. There was no mention of copyright or who owns the work. And when I posed that question to them, they basically said, well, we won't use it, So you're right. You have to just, and I, after that, I wrote a message saying I'm taking myself out of the process because frankly, if a company is, in my opinion, if a company is doing that and there's no compensation for you, there's no protection that they're offering you, then culturally, it's going to be a shit show. Sorry for cussing, but
No, you're right.
You're right.
That's an indication of the culture of the company that they don't value your work or the employees if they're presenting that to you from the get-go, and that's your first impression of them. So yeah, I always tread very, very warily on that. I
think that's good. And if you're pulling yourself out, make sure you're telling them why.
Right.
Yeah, because they're never going to change the process unless they start hearing a lot of people pulling out for that.
Right. Exactly.
And that's hard for job seekers to do.
Yep.
I mean, you want the job, you like the job, you think it's great, but you have to have your integrity and respect yourself.
Yep. Okay. Now I know that there are probably some questions in the chat that we haven't gotten to. So no easy apply ever, ever, ever. Even if it's not posted on the company's website, still don't do easy apply. Thank you, Ken, for your help and your assistance, as
Yep.
always, in the support. Have great fun at the ballpark. Which one are you going? You said Cincinnati?
We're going to Cincinnati, and we're actually then going to Louisville, to the Louisville Slugger plant and all that stuff. We're looking forward to that.
Very nice.
And I do intend to get to you in Chicago at some point. I do.
I know. I appreciate it. I'd love it.
Brenda and I are trying to coordinate this, actually.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
All right. Take care.
Have a great meeting, everybody. I'm going to take you off the spotlight here. Okay. All right. As a reminder, folks, copy the chat, go to our private group. In other words, what you need to do is you need to go into the chat. You can go to the 3 dots at the top of the page where it says Career Search Lunch and Learn. Click on those and it'll say File, Save. You can also just click anywhere in the chat, do the old-fashioned Control-A, Control-C, and copy it into a document for yourself. I will add it to our private group later this afternoon, so do make sure that you do that. Chris, you said something very quickly that just popped in my mind. You disagree about what? Chris, are you still on? Chris? Maybe not. Okay. You have to do what feels comfortable for you, but honestly, the idea of unpaid labor, yes, people are still looking for it, but I wouldn't do it. The idea of telling them, here's my process, giving them a quick little sample, that may work. But please, I had one person spend 3 full days putting together a project and not getting the job. And then 2 months later, seeing some of her suggestions implemented by the company. Don't do it. Next week, we're going to be talking about LinkedIn profiles. We're going to be reviewing a couple. We're going to be talking about how they can help your job search. Melanie Mitchell-Wexler is going to be our guest expert for that session, and I'm hoping you all can join us. Okay. We will be talking about resumes again on a dedicated basis. The topic for the 24th is going to be resumes. So we will be looking at them. We'll be answering your questions. We're getting into a lot more specifics. On the 17th, I think. Okay, we're going to do what's called a roundtable discussion. A lot of questions about getting motivated, staying motivated. This job search takes forever, and you're not getting the responses. So we're going to share our ideas, our questions, our concerns, things that you all do to get yourselves motivated, keep yourselves motivated, and we're going to go from there. But it's going to be a discussion led by you. I'm going to help facilitate it. But I'm hoping you all are going to come, share your frustrations, share your ideas, and let's get ourselves going together. Any additional questions before I turn this off? I am going to stop the YouTube recording.